What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Before I get into the subject at hand, if you want to donate to my channel, I'll be putting a link to the donation where you could donate in the description box. If you want to show love to the channel, you can do that. Now, having said that, let me go into the subject at hand. Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving has been heavily criticized for his performance in the series against the Milwaukee Bucks. He didn't look like the Kyrie Irving that we normally see. Um, Maybe for whatever reason, he just didn't look like Kyrie Irving. And he has been heavily criticized by the mainstream sports media and including some people on social media and here on YouTube. Um, of course, there's also speculation about what he's going to do in the offseason, which began last night for him, but really begins on July 1st and onward as to what he's going to do, in his future in the NBA. Now, these are my thoughts. To those who go on a whole nother trajectory with their criticism, when they try to say he's a scrub or, he's overrated and this proves that, he's not really a superstar or an all-star level player. Okay, now I think you're going too far with that to take a semblance of 5 games. You're taking 5 games. Now, the playoffs are very important. Don't get me wrong. But to take 5 games and measure his status as an NBA player, take it, and you're measuring against what he's done in the past over hundreds of regular season games and probably onwards of maybe close to, I'm just guessing here, 60 or 70 playoff games that he's had. This guy hit the biggest shot in the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers franchise. And for that, he should always remain a Cleveland Cavalier legend, just for that. And even during that postseason, Kyrie Irving, I think, shot 48% from the floor, well over 40% from three-point range, averaged 25 points per game during that playoff run. In the last 2 games, I think the last 3 games or so of the 2016 NBA Finals, Kyrie Irving oftentimes looked like the best player on the court. Okay, that even includes LeBron James. LeBron James was the better player, but there were times and stretches where Kyrie Irving looked like, I want to say, like a mixture of Allen Iverson and Isaiah Thomas on steroids. Like, I mean, he looked incredible. So he's, you can't sit there and call him, a bum or all this. But if you're criticizing his level of play in the playoffs, and you're fair in your assessment, but you're being critical of his play, I think that's fair, though. I mean, even great players get criticized for playoff failures. Michael Jordan was criticized, during the late 80s for, you know, not getting it done. I mean, he was generally considered the best player in the NBA from a skill standpoint, but many people criticized him. They thought that he was selfish. They thought that he didn't trust his teammates. Many analysts and former players, Oscar Robertson comes to mind, said that he didn't make the players around him better. And there was always that adage that everyone used, well, a scoring champion didn't win championships, although Kareem Abdul-Jabbar won the scoring title in 1970-71 season. I think he averaged 31.7 points per game that year, and they won the championship, so that's false. But that was something they always said about him. Now, even later on, when Michael Jordan came out of retirement, remember at this time, Michael Jordan was a 3-time NBA champion, but he did not look well at all during the regular season. And during the playoffs, although his shooting got better, he still stunk it up at times and faded down the stretch of games, which was uncharacteristic of Michael Jordan. And he was heavily criticized in the media for that, despite the fact that he averaged, I think, like 31 plus points per game during the postseason. So he could still score. His numbers looked okay, but what I remember about him during the playoffs is that he turned the ball over a lot, and that was very uncharacteristic of Michael Jordan. But a lot of that was rust, but still, he was criticized for that. Magic Johnson, 1984 NBA Finals. Remember, by this time, Magic Johnson was a two-time NBA champion. Had won the championship in 1980, famously starting at guard in Game 6 of that series, I think it was. And, of course, 1982, the 57-win Lakers, I think at that time, won the championship. So Magic Johnson was a two-time NBA champion. But he was heavily criticized for his failures in the 1984 NBA Finals. Remember, they famously called him Tragic Johnson, to the point where Magic Johnson furiously worked on his outside shooting and became at least a capable outside shooter, mid-range jump shot, and eventually at least a decent three-point shooter. So, we've seen this from players that have won NBA championships but have not played well in the playoffs. LeBron James, we all remember how he was just killed in 2011 for having possibly, no, probably the weakest performance by any superstar in the finals. I think his scoring average dropped like 9 points per game from what he averaged during the regular season or what he averaged in the playoffs or something like that. I just remember him having a terrible, terrible finals. Like he had games where he only scored 8 points, 9 points, 0 points in the fourth quarter. It got to the point where he was deferring, to people like Mario Chalmers when Jason Terry was on. So it's not, to me, overboard to criticize a great player like Kyrie Irving. Um, like I said, for whatever reasons, he just struggled. I don't know whether or not Kyrie just was somewhat disinterested and was to the point where he was just trying to put up numbers. I don't know what was going on with him in the series. I noticed that he took, to me, kind of his shot selection was a little off. Um, I think he settled a lot for outside shots. I don't know. But for whatever reason, he just didn't shoot the ball particularly well. So, that's it. What Kyrie Irving has to do is move on and move on from this experience. I think he's gone. And I'm pretty sure that wherever he ends up next year, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a team that's going to be in the playoffs. And Kyrie Irving is going to use whatever criticisms he got this year as motivations to drive him for next postseason in the 2020 season. And you have to remember also that Kyrie Irving did kind of brought this on himself to an extent. He chose to voice his concerns. Maybe they were somewhat legitimate. I've heard rumors about why he wanted to get out of Cleveland. I don't know what's true or what's not, just the rumors. But for whatever reason, he wanted to get out of Cleveland, be his own man. He talked to Kobe Bryant a lot, so that was motivation for why he wanted to be his own player. Excuse me, not his own player, but wanted to be the man. So, this situation just didn't work out for him. You know what I'm saying? You had guys on the team that thought that, they were better off as a team without Kyrie Irving. Me personally, I think that's kind of being ungrateful when you have a player of Kyrie Irving's stature. But it's one of those situations you have 15 chiefs and no Indians. Nobody wants to bow down. Everybody wants to be the lead. Everybody wants to be the boss. Everybody wants to be the chief. So that's for that, man. But that's my take on it, man.